Curious how you feel about dinosaurs? Well, they're pretty cool.
Oh, would you? Could you believe it? Dinks is back again to do an incredibly ignorant stupid all over himself. And this time it is about dinosaurs of all things. Now, the really weird thing is, Dinks has 3 videos that I have found on him specifically addressing the Dino Boy. And what is truly bizarre is that they are near identical in terms of content. I mean, they have more or less claims in each of them, but it seems as time goes on, if he said something in one video, it will be right there in the next. So I thought it'd be best to cover his longest video on the topic with all of its brilliant insights. So, you know, it's only a few minutes long, obviously. And it isn't actually the video we started with, it's just, it starts so strange, I didn't want to confuse anyone. Mostly him or his audience if they ever see the video. Because I cannot imagine it's difficult to confuse the hell out of them. Or into them?
Super cool place, really enjoyed it. I was curious about why the Creation Museum pushed dinosaurs so hard. Would you address the dinosaurs, please?
So yeah, presumably Dinks went to a creation museum at some point, and obviously his fans really liked it too, because of how stupid they are probably. I mean, when you enjoy the content of a guy whose brain is literally made of fluff, I do not expect much. And of course, they were a bit put out because they were pushing dinosaurs, which we all know dinosaurs are fake actually. How could they do that to Jesus? For shame.
Well, sure, but I'm not going to do it justice, that's for sure.
Somehow, the understatement of the century, and also completely and utterly wrong. Quite impressive, really. I mean, you are certainly not going to be able to accurately explain anything factual about dinosaurs, but at the same time, your position from a creationist sense is all quite spot on, because it is, of course, all deeply stupid nonsense that doesn't hold up to even the most basic level of scrutiny, let alone any kind of deep analysis and comparison to, you know, reality. So good job, I guess.
So they talk about dinosaurs a lot because that's people's biggest question, just to be quite honest. How do dinosaurs fit in the Bible?
Well, what a delightfully easy question to answer. They don't. They aren't brought up, like, at all. And even when your lot inevitably pull out the incredibly vague descriptions of creatures that sound like almost anything except for big, stompy, man-eating monstrosities, it makes it even more obvious that for some reason, the book that the guy who did literally everything and specifically made Earth on purpose along with its animals, when he made it, he either didn't feel the need to bring them up knowing that would be quite confusing, or had no idea they were a thing, showing that he probably didn't do at least some of the things he claimed to. It's a bit like someone saying they invented Super Mario, but not knowing that the games have pigging jump buttons in them.
So I'm just going to give you a few tidbits to think about.
Wait. You're expecting the people who watch you to think that is way beyond the scope of their abilities. These are people who genuinely believe that you aren't the thickest piece of shit on the entirety of YouTube. How do you expect them to actually have the capacity for thought? Come on, man. Know your audience.
But I highly recommend you check out the Creation Museum, the Ark Encounter, Answers in Genesis, and Creation Ministries International.
My God, that is like recommending that if I want to have the freshest of breath that delights all and sundry, you should learn about the joys of eating great big piles of rancid dog shit from Day Old Dog Shit for Dinner magazine. Because if you genuinely want to learn about dinosaurs, I can't actually even fathom a worse set of places to get your information. In fact, if you want to learn anything, they aren't good for that either. The only purpose for these organizations is if you really want to find out what the most wrong opinions about reality are, since they almost certainly have all of them. I would recommend almost any other resource. DODFD is definitely better in that regard, frankly. And the recipe section's not bad either.
That said, here's a few things to think about. First off, it is a verifiable fact that reptiles never stop growing.
And of course, your first testable claim is categorically false. While it is true that there are certain reptiles that exhibit indeterminate growth, aka they don't stop growing even after reaching maturity, it is absolutely not even close to all of them. There are plenty of types of lizards that do have quote-unquote maximum possible sizes. And if you count birds, which are absolutely a descendant of dinosaurs as we think of them, the fact that most, if not all of them, have a general max size suggests that their ancestors probably did too. And this is also an assumption that all or most old school terrible lizards had that same deal going on. I mean, for a start, a bunch of them were pretty tiny, but also that the big ones never stopped. But seeing as land animals generally have maximum possible sizes before collapsing in on themselves, this too makes it seem pretty unlikely they would just keep growing and growing and growing instead of having a relatively set top end.
And if you read in Genesis, the ages of everybody listed was about 10 times longer than we live now. If reptiles lived 10 times longer, how big would they get?
Yep, okay, that's just... You know that the Bible is bullshit, right? Oh, yeah, of course you don't. You are you, after all. First off, it only explicitly talks about humans living longer, and second, and most importantly, humans don't live for hundreds of years and never have. That is scientifically illiterate, fanciful nonsense. The way humans are structured simply does not, and probably never will, allow for even close to the kinds of ages claimed in the Bible. So many factors impact human longevity that unless there were some pretty massive changes to human physiology, to the point where you could scarcely call them humans anymore, it's about 120 years, maybe 150 at a stretch, seeming to be near enough the absolute limits of their lifespan. It's funny that it was only in the segments of the Bible where nothing written was even close to a first-hand account that these kinds of ages popped up, because as soon as people were actually keeping track of actual ages, they seemed to dramatically drop. I wonder why that might be.
Do you recognize this guy from Jurassic Park? Could you imagine him being maybe 10 times smaller? Maybe looking like one of these guys?
Oh, for frig's sake, movies! I mean, Jurassic Park is an absolute classic of certified banger status. But you should not be using it as the basis for any kind of scientific claim, other than the fact that Jeff Goldblum always was and always will be the sexiest man alive, next to me. But yeah, the idea that the very much fictional frilled lizards from the movie is just a bigger one of these is absurd for so many reasons. The first being the first. That is not a real dinosaur. You are literally using something made up to argue for something made up. I mean, it's on brand, but it's not exactly convincing. Second, even if these weren't as fake as your brain, they clearly aren't the same animal. If you scale this up to near human size, it doesn't even remotely look the same as the other creature. And while animals do change somewhat as they reach maturity, their entire physiological structure does not change quite so dramatically, bar a very few specific examples. A human child and an adult human are still very much recognizable as the same species. These two, absolutely not. They're not bloody Pokemon. They aren't the same shape. They don't move the same. They simply have one feature that is somewhat similar, mostly because the made-up one is based on the real one.
How about that? Another thing is there actually is proof that humans walked with man.
Oh, dip, guys, he's got us there. It turns out that is true. Humans did, in fact, walk with humans. Irrefutable proof that the Bible is 100,000 million% true. No, wait, the other one. Because, yeah, obviously what he meant to say was humans walked with dinosaurs, which is as wrong and stupid as it is completely unsurprising that he didn't catch or correct that error. I mean, for God's non-existent sake, your videos are not exactly long, mate. If you have to do them in one shot, well, just do it again. Or just edit. Go do a reshoot and edit in what you meant to say. But you know, the fact that you don't even have an on-screen note acknowledging, addressing, and correcting the flub means the most likely conclusion is that he just doesn't pay all that much attention to detail, assuming without checking that it was a perfect take, or listening through and simply not noticing the error. And all this from a man who is convinced that he is stating a true fact about reality, a fact that, mind you, entirely flies in the face of known, accepted, demonstrable reality.
There's a lot of it. We have various ancient displays that show something that looks like humans interacting or even riding what look like dinosaurs.
First off, oh my giddy aunt, he can edit his videos. I mean, it's absolutely piss poor. Some of the worst audio clipping I've ever heard. But it's there. So that means you just didn't notice the fact that you are an idiot. Second, No, there's a lot of shit that morons like you see using your pareidolia vision and say, hey, Dino Boy, then deciding that's all you need to do to know that you are 125% correct, when there are always better explanations for them. Not that it's relevant for the far, far more important fact that dinosaurs, in the sense that we understand them, do shut up, chickens are dinosaurs, pedants. They did not exist at the same time as humans in pretty much any form. Just because there's some random image that might look like dinosaurs in some ancient temple or whatever doesn't change the facts about reality as they exist. I mean, there's plenty of drawings of all sorts of fantastical creatures made today. But if you hadn't noticed, none of this shit is real.
You can come up with some kind of excuse why it's not a dinosaur.
Not an excuse. Overwhelming evidence that the creatures known as dinosaurs are something that existed and went extinct millions of years before whatever became humans next was even around, let alone humanity itself. They just aren't creatures that existed at the same time as each other. I don't need to have explanations for why these aren't dinosaurs to know they weren't with humans. And even if they somehow are, the more likely explanation is simply that they found the remains of a dinosaur and invented some idea of them. And of course, because they didn't know any better, simply assumed that they existed at the same time as humans because humans are self-centered like that. But it doesn't make any of their assumptions magically true, does it? No matter how much you like how they sound.
But, I mean, it fits the skeleton.
Way to make my point for me, Captain Dumbass. And how might one do something that fits a skeleton? Would it be because they found a skeleton? Although, let's be clear, they really don't fit the skeletons. They are vaguely similar shapes to some of the things, but are hardly identical. And certainly not in the way that we now understand that they would look. You'd think that had they existed at the same time, there would be many more, much more accurate examples all over the place. Instead of the handful of kinda sorta similar looking things, if you squint a little and really want to believe that's what they are. But I'll tell you this for nothing, that's not exactly what we call science, mate.
There's also a dinosaur footprint that intersects with a fully formed human footprint in bedrock that they found in Texas under a dried up river.
Ugh, this shit again. A vaguely human foot-shaped print near some dinosaur foot-shaped prints. Apart from one major problem, do those not look way more like shoe prints? I mean, seriously, if you saw that outside your house, would you think that this made it or that this made it? I seriously doubt they had spats umpteen bajillion years ago. But seriously, they aren't human footprints, like, at all. They are more than likely the heavily eroded footprints of some other kind of dinosaur. The thinking goes that you had a three-toed fella that center foot would sink further into the mud while its other toes not so much, as they would be more for balance than weight supporting. Then whatever remained of those toe prints over time would wear away, leaving the more elongated human shoe shape we see today. And you might not like that explanation, but it sure as shit makes more sense than dinosaurs were all over the place until a few thousand years ago and no one seemed to frigging notice.
That shouldn't be possible.
No, it really shouldn't be possible for you to be this dumb, but here we are. Someone capable of making a puppet show and editing it, no matter how poorly. You would think they might be at least somewhat capable of some level of understanding. Beyond, duh, 𝔻𝕚𝕦𝕡𝕡𝕖𝕥 looked like the thing, so it must be the thing. But apparently I am asking way too much.
Supposedly, fully formed humans were millions of years away from the Tyrannosaurus Rex.
No supposedly about it, buddy boy, they just were. And we know this because of where we find the damn thing. You know that classic, the meteor that killed the dinosaurs? Yeah, that's not a joke or a guess. That's based on the fact that there is a distinct boundary between where dinosaurs are found in the geologic record and where the stuff that came after is found. It's called the Cretaceous-Paleogene boundary, or the KPG boundary. It is where an iridium isotope basically sits across the planet, and almost everything that sits underneath it disappeared basically immediately after it turns up. But we find different and newer things above it, and that is very much where humans sit. So even without the known tens of millions of years, There's simply no way that humans existed at the same time because no fossils of them exist beyond that divide.
But yet there it is. Also, we have recently found soft tissue, soft dinosaur tissue, which should not have been possible if it actually is millions of years old.
Oh, we have a classic creationist move there, using the very greatest strength of science against it and demonstrating why creationists cannot do science, at least when it comes to the things they presuppose. Although in Dinks' case, I can only assume he doesn't understand any science, even if it would support his dumb conclusion. We used to think that there was a hard and relatively low upper limit to how long quote-unquote soft tissue, and I say quote-unquote for a very good reason, it is hardly soft, it is just a fossilized form of what would have been soft a very long time ago. It is not the chunks of meat your lot seems to think it is. But yeah, someone discovered that there were ways that it could be naturally preserved longer than we thought. But at no point did anyone who knows anything about anything think that, no, this is impossible. All science is now wrong. They actually said, wow, that's cool. We should look for more of it because it looks like this thing is different from how we thought. Awesome. Nothing has actually changed except for our understanding of how things work, including your misunderstanding for how things work. Science moved on. Your lot didn't because you can't.
Not to mention also tropical vegetation found in the stomach of a mastodon, or was it a woolly mammoth? Well, one of the two.
Dinks. Well, I never. You not bothering to actually check the details of what you're saying. I am surprised. Almost as surprised to find out that this is a wrong creationist lie. Well, once it was just incorrect science, but as with all things creationist, if the science agrees with them, or at least sounds like it agrees with them, well, then it's correct. But if it changes, well, now it's wrong to make God look bad. Unless it goes back to something, you know, like the soft tissue, when suddenly it's right again. Do you think that it ever occurs to them just how insanely biased they all are? Seeing as on our side, whatever the science changes to, it is accepted. And if it changes what the overall conclusion is, the story changes to best reflect what the evidence says. We don't get to pick and choose what suits us. It all goes in. That's how we know we're right.
And then there's the Bible.
Well, of course, you can only but finish up on your strongest point. And of course, by strongest, I'm speaking of its overwhelming stench, since it's definitely going to be the biggest, stinkiest pile of bullshit that has ever been uttered. Trying to break your personal record, I see.
There seems to be a clear description of a long-necked dinosaur called Behemoth in Job. Just some things for you to think about. Go look into them yourselves. I think you'll be fascinated.
Yep, of course, it's the Behemoth bullshit, a description that says so little, it might as well say nothing at all. Descriptive in all the wrong places and all the wrong ways, that includes nothing that would be the interesting parts of an actual dinosaur. In such poetic prose that it's impossible to know what is meant to be taken literally. And most interestingly of all, you earlier talked about dinosaurs living several times longer, which is supposedly the state of the pre-flood world. But Job, in fact, happens after that alleged event. So which is it? Oh right, of course, it's neither. Because it's all bollocks, mate.